I don't even know what deal you can make with a bunch of terrorists who do nothing but lie and want to kill you.
Chris, I'm confused by that. It's like they can't fight. Like they have no capabilities. All they do is they fire off some random drones to civilians.
Please like, subscribe, and share. John Fetterman, a Democrat in name only, appeared on his News Nation show and did what he often does on TV: defend the Trump administration and its disastrous war. We're going to watch clips from his conversation with Chris Cuomo and MAGA supporter John Fetterman, and I'll share my thoughts as we go. Let's dive in.
Together.
1 month plus into the war, are we any closer to it ending? It doesn't seem so. President Trump says we already won the war. America and the IDF have dropped thousands of bombs, crushing all of these different communities. Who knows what's happening to Iranians on the ground? We're told the regime leadership and its weaponry are decimated, and yet the regime is still fighting back, killing Iranians, and seems to be getting louder, flaunting its control of a chunk of the world's energy flow. Now, the president says the regime is begging for a deal. The regime comes out and says no deal. Trump says he'll stop fighting to talk. The regime says no ceasefire. Trump says we're going to take control of the strait whenever we want, but then seems to celebrate the regime being in control, saying they gave us a gift. The gift was the regime deciding to let a few non-American ships through. When pushed on the war, the White House says we may send in troops and the president will not go to Congress first. Here at home, we have a shutdown the president refuses to end. Reports of TSA officers forced to sleep in their cars and sell blood plasma to make ends meet. ICE agents wandering airports as lines grow. Let's bring in the one Democrat who voted against his party to keep the government open, and he may be seeing blowback for that in the polls. Democratic Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. Mr. Senator, thank you for joining us.
Hi. Hey, Chris. It's great to be here.
So we're both heading into Easter here, and I don't think we've ever needed rebirth and renewal more. My question to you is, do you think the Senate stays, or is there nothing really, no deal on the table worth staying for in terms of the shutdown?
I truly don't know. I mean, things seems to shift here or there. But what I've always maintained, whether during this shutdown or the shutdown, last year, it's always wrong to shut the government down. I don't care if it's the Republicans or the Democrats behind it. And now the people that are driving that, they end up with empty pockets. There was no health care, but it just punished, and they plunged 42 million Americans into food insecurity and now suspended SNAP, and all of our employees weren't paid for that entire period now. And now I'm traveling every year, and I talk to TSA agents, and uniformly they are desperate. They are angry and they are exasperated, where I'm like, why are we doing this? We just don't get it. I mean, these are not rich people. They make around $50,000 a year. That should be our wheelhouse. These are the kind of people that we should be fighting for. And now we're talking about affordability, and now we're denying them to their paychecks. And now here, and we knew going into it that shutdown of DHS would have zero impact on forcing any kinds of changes at ICE. And that's here we are right now. So what is it that we really get out of it? All we've done is we've punished TSA and other employees under DHS and made us less safe, and now creating mass chaos in our air traffic system across America.
So the Democrats started it. Is it true that the president refuses to finish it? That when there was a deal on the table that the senators on the Republican side wanted to take, they were told no by Trump? That's what Senator John Kennedy says.
I mean, there's deals back and forth, but it's really there's a core truth here right now. Democrats have no leverage. And we've never had that because ICE already had the money that they needed from the big, beautiful bill that I did not vote for. We had no leverage over it. And now they haven't agreed to any significant kinds of changes that we were demanding, and now I called for Noam to be fired. She was. And now we had an opportunity to work with someone. And in this case, Senator Mullen, now Secretary Mullen, was a friend. And I had the ability to work with him directly. He invited me to go to Turks and Caicos. If people remember, Americans were looking at a decade in prison because of a couple random bullets in their luggage. And we worked together, and not one single American, ended up going to prison. So he's a competent and an honest and a committed guy.
Oh, that's interesting. That's Senator. Take one more step on that for me, because I got to tell you, I was surprised. I thought that your vote was, hey, look, presidents get to pick their staff. I'm not going to hold this up. I'm voting. That's what I thought it was. I didn't know that you thought he was a good fit for the job, because I've never seen anybody in that position with no experience in law enforcement, let alone Homeland Security.
Yeah, well, Mayorkas may have had some experience, and the border turned into an absolute disaster. And I referred to Noam as their version of Mayorkas. But I do believe he's committed, and we've had multiple conversations. And his top priority is to secure our border, round up all of the criminals, and they're not going to have any more things like Minneapolis and that tragedy. And I would point out that, to my knowledge, what I've reported, there is no ICE presence in Minneapolis anymore right now. So, we have a choice to find someone to work with. And now that's a choice that I made. And there were multiple Democrats privately, they wish they wanted to work or to vote for him, but they know, and I certainly felt some blowback from parts of the Democratic Party to vote for him, but they just didn't want they didn't want the blowback.
Please like, subscribe, and share. Any Democrat who votes for him deserves backlash, and MAGA supporter John Fetterman should face criticism too. As Chris Cuomo pointed out, and as I've said before in a recent video, Markwayne Mullin isn't qualified for this role. He's completely unfit. I've even called him one of the least capable senators in the country. People might bring up Tommy Tuberville, and sure, he may have a master's degree, but that alone doesn't make someone smart. Still, Mullin doesn't even have a college degree. What stands out is Fetterman's weak argument, basically saying, others are worse, so let's go with this guy. That's an incredibly low standard. Even if he might seem slightly better than others, which I doubt, that's not good enough. As Cuomo emphasized, the real issue is that Mullin simply isn't qualified. Couldn't they find someone with actual law enforcement or DHS experience? Instead, they picked someone known for acting out, even trying to start fights during hearings. Then comes the excuse. If they block this nomination, who would Trump pick next? That logic makes no sense. The right response is simple. Send someone better. Reject unqualified nominees until a competent, experienced candidate is put forward, not just another loyalist. That's the stance Fetterman and other Democrats should be taking.
Trump would have sent. Who's the next one?
So think about that stupid rationale as well. It's like, well, if we kill this one, who will be the next person? You say, send somebody better. This guy sucks. He has no experience. He's an idiot. We're going to keep voting against these people until you put somebody in there who is actually qualified and not just a lackey. That's what John Fetterman and all of the Democrats should be saying.
No.
Well, for like the poll, that's just not accurate. There is one that's not valid. There was one around that same time that I'm 50-50 with Democrats. That's a fact. That too. And that in 2023 isn't relevant right now. Without a doubt, there are some Democrats, but it's that's not really an accurate number, honestly.
Listen, I appreciate your take on it, and we'll see what happens when your primary comes up. A lot can change.
The morning consult, they came out roughly that same time, and I'm at 48, 49 with Democrats, and I was in the 60s for Republicans. Without a doubt, I for some strange way, I am more popular with Republicans, which is it's confusing because I vote in the 90s Dem line. And I haven't voted for the big ticket Trump ones like Big Beautiful Bill or Save Act, and for those things. So, there's a lot of misinformation, I guess, but I am guilty of being a very proud supporter of Israel, and I do support Epic Fury.
Let me ask you about Epic Fury. Do you think that you have a good handle on what's going on? As you heard me say off the top, there's a lot of mixed information coming out of this. We're now in the 5th week of this situation, and it doesn't seem like the regime is ready to lay down arms and make a deal. And I don't even know what deal you can make with a bunch of terrorists who do nothing but lie and want to kill you.
Chris, I'm confused by that. It's like they can't fight. They have no capabilities. All they do is they fire off some random drones to civilians. I mean, they don't engage in a military way. Those cowards fire just random drones and they hit civilians. You know, they have no ability to stop. We could have bombed them and do whatever that they want. We want right now. So it's just silly, tough talk that they can't back it up. You know, their entire apparatus has been destroyed. And if firing a drone at some civilians, that's not the military. That's just a dying regime that's just trying to hang on. And now also that Ayatollah has been, you know, weekend at Bernie's, you know, since February. Why doesn't the media demand proof of life? He has not been seen. He hasn't had a statement, hasn't anything since then. So who's really leading? And it's strange where there are some Democrats in my caucus that they refuse to say, who do I trust, Trump or the Iranians, for God's sake? You know, it's sad. It was sad to me when, you know, my leader refused to describe it's a good thing that the Iranian military apparatus has been severely diminished on Morning Joe a couple of days ago. Why can't we say that's a good thing? Why can't we all agree that this evil regime has been broken and now all they can do is put out false, weird AI videos, and they can't even produce their technical, the Ayatollah. And if they want to wield his body around and pretend that they have any leadership, and now if someone thinks that firing some drones at civilians, that's not a military, because they haven't been able to engage on a military level right now.
Well, they certainly don't have the air power. We'll see what happens on Carg Island.
Please like, subscribe, and share. So John Fetterman claims that when it comes to Iran, they're incapable. They only target civilians, and that makes them cowards. But how many schools has the U.S. bombed in Iran? How many hospitals? There are even reports of double-tap strikes, hitting a target, then striking again when medical teams arrive. So is that not cowardly too? Everyone understands war is horrific, and frankly, the U.S. shouldn't be involved in this conflict in the first place. Civilian casualties can happen, but targeting schools, hospitals, and repeating strikes like that raises serious questions. Yet when Iran uses drones defensively, that's what Fetterman calls cowardly. Then he says his colleagues don't know who to trust. But why should they trust Donald Trump? He lies constantly and labels Democrats and the media as enemies of the people. Just recently, he even called Democrats the biggest threat to the country. So why would anyone take his word seriously? Sure, Iran isn't exactly trustworthy, but the U.S. government under Trump hasn't been either. There's a pattern of misinformation and contradictions. He'll say one thing one day and the opposite the next. And Democrats are supposed to trust him on a war he didn't even seek authorization for? Fetterman also says he proudly supports this operation, which for many should already be disqualifying. Democrats should be standing firmly against it. Take Bernie Sanders, an independent who caucuses with Democrats. He's been clear. The U.S. never should have entered this war, and he opposes funding it. That's the kind of position more Democrats should be taking. Honestly, Fetterman should face a primary challenge. In general, any politician who can't win support within their own party shouldn't be reelected. But in his case especially, there should be accountability. The reality, though, is incumbents usually win, often just because people recognize the name. Still, based on his stance, he aligns more with MAGA than with democratic values. What do you think about what Fetterman said in his exchange with Chris Cuomo? I wish Cuomo had pushed back more. He tends to lean into that both sides approach. He did challenge Fetterman a bit, but not nearly enough. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.